Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're looking at Japan. A country you immediately think of for, like cutting-edge tech, amazing efficiency, bullet trains, robots. Their global influence is huge.
Absolutely undeniable.
But what if I told you there's this growing worry about a shift? A subtle one, maybe, but significant in its scientific research power. Is it actually declining? And maybe more importantly, why should you care? If you're interested in where the next big breakthroughs are happening, or just global shifts generally.
Yeah, why does it matter beyond Japan?
Exactly. So we're going on a bit of a journey today, really digging into some recent data that paints a pretty compelling picture of Japan's research scene.
We'll look at where they stand now, the factors behind these changes, because they're complex and maybe some ways forward.
That's a real deep dive into the engine room of innovation, you could say.
And what's really insightful, I think, is that we're not just counting papers, We're looking at the impact, the influence, and how that can shift, sometimes dramatically, on the world stage.
Where's this info coming from?
Good point. It's grounded in analysis from Japan's own Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, MEXT, everyone calls it, and the Cabinet Office, too.
Okay, so official sources.
Right. And our mission, really, is to unpack what they found, pinpoint the systemic challenges, and explore some actual workable solutions, not just for Japan, but, understanding these trends helps us see the bigger global science picture.
That's a crucial distinction. Impact, not just volume.
Okay, so let's tackle that main question then. Is Japan's research power really fading? And how do you even measure something like scientific influence?
It's tricky, but the key metric these sources use is top 10% highly cited papers.
Okay, break that down.
Think of them as the chart toppers of academic articles, peer-reviewed papers that are in the top 10% globally for how often other researchers cite them.
So it's a quality signal, not just putting something out there, but others are actually using it, building on it. Exactly. A citation is like a vote of confidence. It means that work is foundational, important. It's way more than just, say, publishing a thesis.
Got it. So using that yardstick, what's the story for Japan?
Well, it's quite revealing. If you look back, say, 2010 to 2012, Japan was doing pretty well, ranked 6th globally on this measure.
6th is strong. Who was ahead?
Let's see. U.S. was first, then China, U.K., Germany, France. And maybe for comparison, South Korea was 12th back then.
Okay, so Japan was definitely a major player, no question, just a decade or so ago. What about now?
That's where the picture changes quite a bit. The latest data covering 2020 to 2022, Japan has dropped significantly, down to 13th place.
13th? Wow, that's quite a slide.
It is. And look at the new top 5. China is now number 1, then the U.S., U.K. India is surprisingly up there at 4th, and Italy is 5th.
India at 4th. Interesting. And what about South Korea? You mentioned they were 12th?
They've climbed, moved up from 12th to 9th. So they're showing a clear upward trend while Japan's gone the other way.
But does this mean Japan is publishing fewer papers overall?
That's the nuance, and it's really important. Japan's total number of research papers has actually gone up in this time. They're still publishing a lot.
So quantity is up. Okay.
But the number of those really influential papers, the top 10% cited ones, that number has decreased.
Okay, so it suggests maybe a struggle with groundbreaking work,
Right.
or work that resonates globally, less impact, essentially.
Precisely. It seems to be more about the quality and the global impact rather than just the raw volume.
And you can't talk about this without mentioning China's rise. It's not just Japan slipping, it's others soaring.
Oh, absolutely. China's ascent is staggering. First place in 2020, 2022. And the sheer volume of their top 10% papers, it's roughly double the U.S.'s number.
Double the euro.
Yeah, and about 20 times Japan's number.
20 times. That's mind-boggling,
Right.
especially considering the old criticism about China focusing on quantity over quality.
Right. That narrative has completely flipped. They are, without a doubt, a global research powerhouse now, across so many fields, AI, biomedicine, you name it.
So this isn't just like shuffling deck chairs. It's a fundamental shift in the global science landscape.
It really is. It shows leadership isn't static.
Yeah.
And when you see such a dramatic change, you have to ask, okay, what are the underlying reasons? What systemic factors are at play here?
Yeah, what allowed some to accelerate while Japan maybe hit the brakes?
Exactly.
So let's dig into that. What is behind this? What are the root causes our sources point to for Japan's situation?
They identify 3 main areas, really. First, fewer researchers overall. Second, not enough actual research time for the scientists they do have. And third, a surprisingly weak, maybe even outdated research support environment.
Okay, those sound like pretty fundamental problems.
They're systemic.
Yeah.
Let's take funding and time first. Obviously, limited funding means fewer projects, fewer potential breakthroughs. That's straightforward.
Makes sense.
But it's also about time. Academics in Japan report being swamped with what they call miscellaneous tasks. The Japanese term is zatsumu.
That's sumu, like
Yeah.
that's admin.
Yeah, paperwork, budgeting for pens and paper, organizing university open days, stuff that pulls them away from the actual lab or their desk work.
Wow. So you could be a brilliant scientist, but half your week is bureaucracy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly bogged down in that, you just don't have the headspace or the hours to do the deep, innovative thinking required for top-tier research.
That sounds incredibly frustrating, and I gather there's a demographic issue adding to the pressure, an aging research workforce.
Yes, that's another layer. The sources point to a kind of generational problem, particularly in universities, starting after the economic bubble burst back in the 90s.
How so?
Well, younger researchers coming up then often got stuck in unstable, non-permanent academic jobs. They really struggled to get tenure or secure positions.
Ah, the precariat hitting academia.
Kind of, yeah. And private companies weren't hiring as much either during those lean years. So you ended up with this bottleneck, and the overall research workforce started aging.
Which means fewer fresh perspectives, maybe slower adoption of new methods, a continuity problem.
All of that. It's like a generation of potential academic leaders got squeezed.
Okay, so fewer researchers, less time for research. What was the third point? The support system.
Right, the weak support system and administrative bottlenecks. This is critical and often gets missed. It's not just about the scientists themselves.
It's the ecosystem around them.
Exactly. There's a real shortage of specialized lab technicians and support staff in Japanese universities compared to other top research countries.
So the people who actually help run the experiments maintain complex equipment.
Precisely. And the administrative staff they do have often focus more on general admin rather than, say, high-level project management or technical support needed for complex research.
And you mentioned bottlenecks. Sounds
Yeah.
like paperwork problems again.
Big time. Especially with contracts. The sources highlight this almost baffling issue with processing things like non-disclosure agreements, NDAs.
NDA is essential for any collaboration, right?
Okay.
Especially with industry or international partners.
Absolutely crucial. But apparently in Japanese universities and public research bodies, getting an NDA processed can take, well, months.
Months, seriously, not days or weeks.
Months, compared to maybe, 30 minutes, a couple of days elsewhere. Foreign partners are often just confused, like, what is taking so long?
I can imagine. If you're a fast-moving startup wanting to collaborate, waiting 3-4 months for an NDA kills the momentum completely.
It absolutely kills it. It's not just an annoyance. It actively hinders industry-academia links and international projects.
What's the holdup? Is it just bureaucracy or...
Part of it seems to be an administrative mindset where they see their role as, like, managing researchers rather than actively supporting the research projects. And often they lack the specialized expertise like legal or international negotiation skills for complex deals.
There was an example you mentioned.
Yeah, a really stark one. The dean of a pharmacy school at a national university. He had to personally handle negotiations for an international collaboration. Why? Because the university's own international relations staff didn't have the necessary English skills.
The dean had to do it because the support staff couldn't. That's... wow.
Tells you something, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, when that administrative backbone is so fragile or maybe just not fit for purpose, how much potential just gets lost?
Exactly. How many great ideas never get off the ground or never reach their potential because of these hurdles?
And presumably this spills over into actually turning research into products or companies, the whole commercialization side.
Directly. Which brings us to the venture ecosystem. That seems to be suffering from what the sources call a slow burn.
Okay, so how does that innovation gap look in practice?
Well, look at the numbers. In 2022, Japan had about 363 startups born out of universities. Sounds okay, maybe. It's about a third of the number in the U.S.
Okay, still seems substantial.
But here's the kicker. The total investment going into all Japanese ventures, not just university ones, was only about 1/100th of the investment level in the U.S.
100th. So the money just isn't there.
Not nearly on the same scale. Even if good ideas are spinning out, they're starved of the capital needed to grow, scale up, compete globally. It's a huge funding deficit.
Is it just a lack of money? Or is it how the investment system works?
It seems to be both. There are challenges with the venture capital firms themselves. Many Japanese VCs tend to sort of piggyback on what big U.S. VCs are doing. Meaning they often wait for a major U.S. firm to invest in a Japanese startup first, almost as a signal of approval, before they jump in. They don't seem to do as much independent evaluation of domestic potential.
Why not? Lack of confidence?
The sources suggest it's partly a lack of personnel within the Japanese VC firms who have the deep technical or market expertise to really assess these cutting-edge venture projects thoroughly themselves. So it leads to this more conservative, follow-the-leader approach.
A talent gap on the money side, then.
Seems like it. And then there's the behavior of the startups themselves, which is, well, peculiar.
How so?
They often seem to prioritize the survival and maintenance of the company structure itself over aggressively investing in the research to push the project forward.
So keeping the lights on, paying salaries.
Right. Invested funds might go disproportionately to executive salaries or overhead rather than being plowed straight back into the core R&D. Actual research often only gets a boost when they secure a government grant.
Which they then use to hire temporary researchers.
Often, yes. It creates this kind of grant dependency cycle. It's like they're investing in the box, the company structure, rather than the innovative idea inside the box.
That sounds very different from the stereotypical Silicon Valley model where it's all about burning cash to grow fast or fail fast.
Exactly. In the U.S. model, generally the money pours into R&D. Deliver results, hit milestones, or the funding dries up. Project ends. In Japan, the tendency seems to be to prolong the project, keep the company going.
But doesn't that mean they lose momentum? The novelty wears off.
That's the risk. They can end up, as the source puts it, just naturally disappearing without ever making a real impact because they took too long.
Which links back to something you mentioned earlier, this difficulty in cutting losses.
Precisely. The concept of sankiri in Japanese. There seems to be a real cultural or systemic aversion to admitting failure and shutting down unpromising projects.
But in innovation, surely you have to be able to do that, to pivot quickly.
Absolutely vital. Freshness, speed, agility, that's the lifeblood of a successful venture. If you drag things out because you can't pull the plug, you miss that critical window of opportunity. The market moves on. Your idea gets stale.
It feels like a major disconnect between the pace needed for innovation and how things actually operate.
It does. And even government efforts like these startup incubation plans aiming for 5,000 support cases. The focus seems to be on the number of attempts.
Quantity again.
Right. But what's really needed isn't just lots of startups. It's high-quality ventures that actually deliver results that create value.
So yeah, what does this all mean for actually getting research out of the lab and into the world? It seems like a different approach is desperately needed.
Definitely. A new model, or at least a serious shakeup. And this is where looking at something like contract research organizations, CROs, becomes really interesting.
CROs, right. Tell us about those.
So typically, these are private companies. They hire researchers full-time, give them specialized training, and then these researchers work on projects for different clients, pharma companies, biotech ventures, etc.
So the researchers get exposure to lots of different projects.
Exactly. It creates this pool of highly skilled, highly mobile talent. Because they see diverse challenges, they build expertise across different areas. It can be a really dynamic career path.
And these CROs, they're just contractors.
Yeah.
Doing what they're told.
Well, that's how they started, maybe. But modern CROs, especially the leading ones, have evolved. They're not just executing anymore. They're developing their own research know-how.
Really?
They partner with VCs. They proactively propose drug discovery ideas. Sometimes they even co-found startups themselves, particularly in the U.S. They've become active players in the innovation game.
That's a big shift. From service provider to innovation partner.
A huge shift.
Yeah.
And having seen how they operate, especially in places like China and India where things move fast, their ability to focus, build expertise, and just execute efficiently is really impressive.
Has Japan tried anything like this? Have universities tried to play that role?
They have. Universities and public research institutes have tried to act sort of like CROs, taking on contract work, but they've mostly struggled.
Why?
Main reasons seem to be a lack of enough dedicated, full-time researchers specifically for that kind of work, and often insufficient real-world experience, particularly in complex areas like drug discovery.
Couldn't they use students?
They tried that too, but it didn't really work out. Students need to focus on their own research for their degrees. Corporate projects often don't align with academic publication goals. Plus, there were all sorts of issues around labor rules, project management, It just wasn't a good fit.
So attempts were made, but the structure wasn't right.
Pretty much. Whereas if you look at China again, their contract research sector really took off from the early 2000s.
What was the key there?
A big factor was talent returning from overseas, bringing back cutting-edge skills and experience. They mentored local researchers, and crucially, they built up a massive amount of practical know-how by doing projects for Western companies.
Learning by doing,
On a
essentially.
huge scale. And that accumulation of talent and practical expertise directly fueled China's recent boom in biotech ventures and other areas. It shows how the right kind of support infrastructure can be a massive catalyst.
So putting this all together for Japan, the message seems pretty clear.
I think so. If they want to turn things around, regain that top-tier status in research and innovation, they have to get serious about fixing the entire support system. It's not just about hiring more PhDs.
It's the ecosystem.
It's the whole ecosystem. And that has big implications for policymaking, too.
How so?
Well, the sources critique how policy is often made by officials who might lack direct research experience, working off assumptions.
Instead of ground-level reality.
Right. And given that most R&D in Japan, in terms of money and people, actually happens in the private sector, not academia.
That's an important point.
It is. So any government policies trying to boost research must bring in private sector voices and experience, not just listen to academics. It needs that real-world connection.
It sounds like it needs a fundamental overhaul, really. Rethinking the venture funding, yes, but also seriously leveling up those university admin departments we talked about.
Absolutely. Addressing the support staff issue skills, salaries, their whole role. Equipping them to facilitate research, not just manage budgets.
Yeah.
Making the administration a genuine enabler of science.
Is there any sign the government gets this?
Well, they talk about evidence-based policymaking, EBPM, using data and evidence to guide decisions, which is good.
Okay.
And the analysis in many of these reports, like the ones we're drawing on, is often quite strong. They know what many of the problems are. The real stumbling block, the sources suggest, is execution.
Turning analysis into action.
That's the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And to get real results, to actually connect research to industry effectively, they'll need much deeper collaboration with private companies, the ones that actually know how to innovate and commercialize successfully.
It's a massive challenge, no doubt. But the stakes are high, not just for Japan, but globally. Breakthroughs anywhere help everyone.
True.
So here's something to think about. If the analysis in Japan is strong, if they largely know what's wrong, but execution is the hurdle, what concrete steps beyond just allocating more money could genuinely transform things? How do you fix the doing part to make sure Japan's innovations benefit the world and impact your life?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Something to ponder. Join us next time on The Deep Dive.